sheet that you just got. And if you're at home doing this, of course, you could just write it down in your spiral notebooks. But here we're going to be solving what we call literal equations. And literal equations just simply means you're going to have a lot of letters, more than one letter usually, and then you have to isolate a particular variable. So it'll tell you right here which variable you're trying to isolate. So when it says 4x or 4a, that means you're solving for that particular variable. You're trying to get that particular variable alone. So here, I'm trying to isolate the x. And when you're solving these, you solve them just like if you had numbers, okay? Because we can divide with variables, we can, with letters, and we can subtract letters, and we can multiply letters. So it is slightly different just because you don't have any numbers in most of these. Okay, when you do your homework, you'll have a few numbers, and I'll go over some of those with you as well. So here we're trying to isolate x. So notice x is being multiplied by c. So what's the inverse of multiplication? Division. So I'll divide both sides by c. So again, just like when we solve equations, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Same thing. So the c's cancel out, and now I have x alone. And that's your answer. X equals dr divided by c. Okay. All right, let's look at number 2. And number 2, since it's set up more like a ratio, I would probably go ahead, cross multiply. So I'm going to say AP equals MN. We are solving for A. So again, A is being multiplied by P. So to eliminate P, I'm just going to divide by the P. All right. All right, let's move on down to, let's move on down to another one where we do a different operation here. Go down to 9. Okay, in question number 9, we are solving for x. So I'm just going to rewrite it so I'll have some space. Okay. So if we're solving for x, okay, first thing I want to do is this on both sides. So I want to get rid of that divided by x, and I'll have m equals p in x. Okay, just multiply both sides by x. I want to isolate x now, and x is being multiplied by p and n. So I can just say divide by pn. And now I have x by itself. Okay. Now, there will be some cases where you have two variables in that you have to kind of make it one variable. Look at question number 11. Okay. So in question number 11, they want you to solve for A, but notice I have an A here and I have an A here. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is get all my A's to one side. Now I can't, when I get rid of this positive A that's right here, I'm going to subtract A, because that's the opposite or inverse of positive. So it's gone over here, but I'm going to end up with GCA minus A equals to B. So these are very important. So what do you do if you have an A in both terms? Some kind of way you have to isolate it, right? So what we're going to do is simply factor out, you can put it on my desk, factor out the A. That means put the A on the outside, take it out. Remember how in some of our warm-ups we've been finding the greatest common factor? That's what you would have to do in that case where you have, the same variable that you need to get by itself. So we're going to factor this out, and I'll be left with GC minus 1. So how did I get minus 1? Because I'm dividing each term, and I'll put it up here in yellow. You're dividing each term by A. the greatest common factor. Okay, it looks different when it's numbers, when it's letters versus numbers, okay? But A divided by A is still one whole, okay, equals to B. Now I only have technically one A on the outside. A is being multiplied by what? So how do you think I'm going to eliminate that times GC minus 1? Okay, so listen to what operation did I just say? I said times. So what is the inverse of multiplication? Division. So I'm going to divide by the GC minus 1. That cancels out. And now I have A isolated. Okay, so that requires a little bit more work when you have the A in both places. Just get them all to one side and then factor it out. Okay. Same thing with number 12. So let's take a look at number 12. So whenever you have like a fraction, always go ahead and eliminate that fraction by multiplying. In this case, we're going to multiply both sides by A. So I'll have AUK over here equals, just got rid of that fraction, A plus B. Now, since I'm solving for A, I want to get all my A's to one side. So I'm going to subtract this A over just like I did before. So when I subtract it over, I'll have AUK minus A equals to B. And now I'm going to factor out the A. So technically, when I divide these two terms by A, I'll be left with UK minus 1 equals B. Since UK minus 1 is being multiplied, I'm going to divide. Okay, that cancels out. And now I have B divided by UK minus 1. All right, so on page 18 in your packets, you have variables and numbers, okay? So let's just do one that has variables and numbers. So let's take a look at question number 3. This is on page 18 in your packets. So if we're solving for C, I want to first go ahead and get rid of that divided by negative 4C. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 4C. That takes care of that. And I'm be left with a B8A minus 4B equals negative 4C. And I'm solving for C, so what should I do next? Divide by negative 4. And since, 4 can actually go into that 8, we can just call that a negative what? Negative 2A. And this is going to be plus what? Plus B. So all I did was just simply divide both terms by the negative 4. Okay. All right, let's look at number 2. Number 2 is pretty easy, but I just want to do one where all the pluses and the minuses. In number 2, we're solving for B. So that means we have to eliminate the 6C and the plus 3. So you can subtract 6C and the negative 3 at the same time. Now I'm going to put the minus 3 under the 4, but notice I put the negative 6C off to the side because you don't have anything to combine that with. All right, so I'm going to end up with, and typically, guys, we do put them in alphabetical order. So when I rewrite it, I'm going to start with this term first, the negative A term. And then we'll do the C term. And then we'll do the constant. So 4 minus 3 gives us what? Plus 1. And this will equal negative b. Okay. Now, if you want to subtract the 6c and then subtract the 3, you want to do them in 2 separate steps, you definitely can do that. All right. So the only thing I have to divide by now is this negative 1 because we need to have a positive variable. So really it's just going to change all the signs at the top. Okay. Okay, so that's the lesson on literal equations. So your homework tonight, if you take a look at your calendar, this is what you'll be working on for homework. All right. So let me go over what you're going to be doing for classwork. Okay, I'll bring up the agenda for you. All right, so it says finish the note page. So for this one, since we started out with the first lesson on variables in the denominator, let's just say you're going to finish page 12b. Okay, I think I did most of 12a with you. Okay, that's on variables in the denominator. Okay, so let's start there. So it's the 2 lessons today. One is variables in the denominator, and then the other one was literal equations. Okay, after that, we do have, and we're not going to get the task for today. After that, on pages 16 and 17, if you want to take a look at 16 and 17 now, there are some word problems, and these should be done in your spiral notebooks, and I'm asking you to do 1 through 8 on both pages. Okay, so go ahead and flip to page 16. All right, so on this particular page, it's 16, setting these proportions up. Okay, this is what you're going to do. And again, guys, this has to be done in your spirals. Okay, so you might want to put spiral notebook here. All right, I'm going to put it up here, but you're going to be writing in your spirals, or you can transfer it later. So it says, solve these by setting up a proportion. The answers are at the bottom, so you should be coming up with what you see at the bottom. When you're doing these types of problems, just make sure that you're paying attention to the labels. So here it says, if there are 560 calories in 8 ounces of meat, how many calories are in 3 ounces of meat? So you're comparing calories and ounces. So you always want to compare in the same order. So if I'm comparing calories to ounces, I want to make sure when I write my proportion, the calories number is always at the top, ounces are always at the bottom. So when I cross multiply, I'm getting the correct answer. So I'm going to compare calories to ounces. So I have 560 calories to 8 ounces. So that's going to be 560 over 8 equals, and then I'm going to say 3 ounces of meat. Ounces goes where? Top or bottom? Bottom. And then, of course, one space will be missing, and that's where you'll place the variable, cross multiply, and solve for the number of calories. And that's all you're doing for all of them. So just pay attention to how you're comparing. Like in the second one, if 2 cubic feet of sawdust weigh 25 pounds, how much will 9 cubic feet of sawdust weigh? So it looks like you're comparing cubic feet to pounds. Okay, so you just want to make sure you put the numbers in their right places. The only one, guys, with time, be very careful. This third one here, this is in seconds, and this one is in what? Minutes. So what do you think you're going to have to do to 10 minutes? Change them to what? You want to change them to seconds. So you're multiplying the same units. Okay? All right, let me know if you have